We're going up and down, over and over, over and over. It's the same old thing. Up and down, over and under.
Noah Savage, welcome to the show.
Oh, what's up? So listen, okay. Here's what I want to know.
Yeah.
How the bleep, because I'm trying to swear less now that I have a baby.
Well,
How do people with kids do anything besides like their job? Like I do my job and then I'm like, how can I keep doing stand up? Like it feels so stupid to be like, all right, just you do everything. I'm going to like go to a show that I'm not even on just to like hang out and maybe get booked. And then like people won't even show like stand up is so stupid to begin with the way it works. And like, I'm just struggling with a baby. Like I actually booked myself on a couple shows in August and September, but I'm just struggling with like, is this just stupid? Because I know you got burnt out recently from podcasting and you're doing better than me at podcasting. I'm doing terrible.
No, come on, man. So here's the thing. Well, and maybe we should update folks. Since we've last spoken, there's been a pandemic that has crippled the world and the economy. And you had a baby. Congratulations.
Thank you. Baby Henry. Doing great.
Awesome. How old?
So
the listeners, I know.
Yeah, no, he's 3 months. And like we just crossed into the he sleeps like 12 hours. Like we got this book 12 weeks and 12 hours.
Really?
Dude, the first time we did it, he just slept for like 11. He went from like 4 hours was the record to like 11. So I'm trying to like crawl out of the hole that is like new fatherhood and like be like, what do I like want to do in my life?
Yeah.
And like one thing I was like pretty good about, even like, you know, month 1, 2, and 3 of his life was like going to the gym and just like, because I'm like, I don't want to like feel like garbage anymore.
Right.
And I've been pretty good about the gym. You know, but it's like, I'm kind of like, I have a great job. I have a great day job. I do ESPN games and I have, you know, my podcast that I do like once in a while. And then I get 10 text messages from my super fans that are like, this is so funny. It's so good. But it's like
one of which is my wife.
It's so hard. Exactly. It's so hard to be consistent, even when you want to do something, right? Like even with exercise, everybody knows if you get up and you lift weights, you're going to feel better. And then you sit on the couch and you go, I'm just going to watch TV. And it's so weird that like we as humans have such trouble being consistent.
Yeah. I'll tell you what happens when you have a kid. You're like, what are all these single people doing with all their time? Like you should be lighting the world on fire. You should be starting companies. You should be ripped. Like you should be donating your time and resources because you realize you're like, what was I doing? Because once you have a kid, I mean, and you're in the thick of it. And like, I'm shocked to hear how well the
dude, I don't even think it's that hard. Like I sound like a moron. But like, all right. Number one, Alyssa does everything. Okay. So she's like amazing. She does a great job.
Right.
But number two, like Henry is pretty chill. He basically just eats. He's up for a little bit, plays, sleep. If he cries, like there's usually a reason. He doesn't really ever just like cry for hours and hours.
Yeah. He's a great baby.
And I'm like back at work. So I'm not with him all day. So I don't want to, you know, like anything I say can and will be used against me in the court of, you know, new motherhood. You know how that is. But I'm like, it's not that hard. It's almost like, all right, people that were in my life that I didn't like get anything out of, or like, you know, we didn't have a good relationship. It was very easy for me to like, just be like, I don't need to ever see you again. Like, that's like, this is a waste of time. Yeah. So I find it like, I'm very like economic with my time now that I'm a father.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, I look at certain things. I go, is this dumb? Like, I know you have that thought. I said that when you started this podcast, you're going to start it. None of your friends are going to care. There's going to be some stranger in Utah who loves the show.
Exactly.
And then you're going to go, why am I doing this? You have this little voice in your head.
Right.
And it's probably even worse with comedy because you go, I'm going to shoot this sketch or whatever. And you go, what am I doing this for?
Dude, I'll tell you what I've found. If you want to get anything done, and I struggle with this all the time. Like I was probably complaining to Sonia this morning. I'm like, there's not enough time. Like I want to do all this shit and I just can't get it done.
Right.
You really have to become like ruthless with your time. Like for me, I have no issue cutting out people that are a waste of time. Like a suck on energy. Like, you know what I mean? Like no issue.
And it's not like, right. And we're not saying like, if you don't get something like they don't help your career, but like you hang out with people that are negative or they're a pain in the ass or whatever.
Yes.
Not like you're not getting something out of it, but like those toxic, draining relationships where you're
There
like,
you go.
why are you a pain in my ass? I have
The
like two friends.
the
that
girl
pain in
who
my ass.
always, the girl who always has a problem with her boyfriend and wants to talk to you about it for 2 hours and then goes on and makes zero time. Now, some of those people are still in my life. It's just not,
Well,
there's just some things that you have to do to keep a marriage going.
But it's like there's my sister-in-law got engaged and she's doing the whole like wedding invite list, right? But what's so funny is when there were people who weren't at my wedding that for whatever reason are back in my life, like my freshman year roommate Kyle Booten, who's like a professor, he's incredible. Whenever I'm up in New England, he just like texts me. Like we went back and forth texting. My high school teammate. So it's weird, like almost like the people you think are your top 50 friends sometimes end up just not being those. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like never talk to you again.
And I don't mean to be crass, right? Like I generally like people, but it really, like if you're trying to get stuff done, like you just have to start cutting things out. Like it drives Sonia nuts the way I interact with people via text. Yeah. Because sometimes it'll be like 24 hours, 36 hours. And I'm sure I hurt people's feelings all the time, or maybe I don't care, like whatever. Yeah. But it's like, I can't look at my phone during the day most of the time, or I won't get my work done. Right. Because my kids want to spend some time with me too. And then after that, my wife needs a little attention, believe it or not. So it's like, even like texting, like I try to do Instagram to promote the show. Right. I just don't even have time for it. That's the thing. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is a waste of time. I'm taking pictures of myself doing shirtless pull-ups.
We got to hire interns because you could be easily Instagram famous because the number one predictor of Instagram fame is just like hotness and like good body, right? Like there's these girls that do comedy that like are so unfunny and they're just babes and they just put up the Instagram and then because they have 10,000 Instagram followers, I go, all right, let's book her on the show. She might get some people there and round it goes. Yeah. So I would say looking at because of course, like you can easily look at other people's career and be like, here's what you should do. But you should be like mainly making Instagram shit because they're going to come in for the hot, husband-wife combo and then they're going to stay for the actual weight. He's actually pretty interesting and smart. But I have a new show. I have a new show idea that I'm putting out. Well, I don't know if I want to put it out here, but it's not like unique. It's like because of me and it's because of me, Alyssa. But I'm going to do a house flipping show. Okay, here's the show. Comedy wasn't working out in New York City, so we went all in on real estate. Boom, knock down the wall. Boom, pull out the sink. What the hell are we doing? We don't know. It's really our money. We better flip it or lose it or something.
Everything's an open concept. Everything's shiplap. Yeah. Just whitewash all the brick. Exactly. I think it's a great idea. So for you though, what is the biggest challenge right now? Is it just like, is this a good use of my time? Or are you like, I just can't get out of the house? Like what's the challenge right now? All right.
This is going to sound conceited, but you've met me before. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm too good at too many things and like too many people want a piece of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, I have my sales job. I love it and I'm good at it. And it's like fairly easy for me because I'm good at it. It's fun. So I do that for a while. And then for 8 hours, I feel like, all right, I'm Clark Kent. And then, comedy me comes in. It's like, all right, now I want to be Superman or, Bruce Wayne, Batman, whatever. And it's like, I just get excited about whatever I'm doing at the time. And then like a week will go by and I'll be like, damn, I haven't gone on stage. And like the act of trying to get on stage until you're like super successful is like very time consuming. Right. And then basketball season starts. And then I have games and I'm flying here and there. And then I'm like, I just don't know. Like there is no answer to this question, but it's like, I think people really struggle with like, what do I really want to do? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? What is it that I really want to do?
I completely get that. And I think about this all the time. So likewise, like I have a great job. It's a very stressful job. And especially, actually we should talk about this. Like end of the quarter for what I do, which is like enterprise, SaaS, technology sales, like whatever buzzword you want to use. Like it just gets very stressful. Just the nature of the way deals close, how long it takes, how many people are involved. Like it can be an absolute nightmare. Yeah. So I kept it together throughout the pandemic pretty well. Like for anyone who's in sales knows that the pandemic was a nightmare. No one had money. No one knew what was happening. They didn't want to spend anything. Like I just like fought tooth and nail to get everything done.
Right.
And like now the economy is like coming back online and it should be getting easier. And I think finally I was just like, I was like, I need to take a break.
Wait, so is it getting easier or not? No,
it is. It is getting easier, but like my job is always going to be a pain in the ass. Like even if my boss is listening, they're probably nodding their head. They're like, it's always a pain in the ass.
Because they're always going to move the goalposts.
They'll always move the goalpost. And just like what I do, it's very technical, but like there's so many people involved. Like when people hear sales, I think the misconception is it's like, oh, car salesman, guy pumping vacuums at your front door. Like I'm dealing with like data security, procurement departments, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot. I enjoy it. But anyways, I finally burnt out and I was like, I got really sick. I was like out of commission for 2 weeks. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not even going to venture to guess whether I got the Delta variant. I am vaccinated, but I crashed and then we had a good buddy pass away and that kind of took some wind out of my sails for a little while. And then there's just a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, man, I need to take a break. And kind of like what you're saying, I need to like focus on my job because that's what pays the bills right now. That's what feeds my kids.
Yeah. But that's the other thing too. You go, like I actually said this to this, one of my friends is comedian Tito Garza. He's a very funny guy. And we're playing golf. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I just don't know what I'm going to do if I don't like get more stage time. He's like, just keep doing your good job that like everybody would kill to have. Like, and I was like, oh yeah. Cause like other comics, like they're like dog walkers and they're like movers. And then they go on stage. Like that's all they do.
Like they have a job just to support their like,
exactly. And in my beginning of doing all this stuff, that was my mentality. But then the job, like, you know, and again, it's like once you've played D1 athlete, you know, D1 athletics, and then once you've done stand up, nothing is hard compared to that, right? Like nothing's harder than just like bombing and knowing you have like 18 more minutes on stage and it's not going to go well. And then, you know, like it's like the embarrassment of that.
Stuck up there.
Nothing is worse than that. And like nothing's worse than like, you know, losing the game for your team and getting crushed by your coach and you're tired and injured and all that stuff. So, you know, it's not like I sound like a piece of shit right now, but I'm like, the corporate world is like so easy compared to that. Like in so many ways, it's like once you know the game and you know the like politics and the language, it's like, this is not, I'm not running at 5 a.m. This is easy, you know, like
that's what I've always said. I was like, no one's going to put me on the line if I send a bad email.
Yeah.
Like the physical threat or like punishment was what made, you know what I mean? That was what made like football so miserable. Like there's none of that at the office. There might be like
hilarious,
a stern talking to.
Yeah. And like
exactly
the fact that the world is like soft now, which everybody says, you know, everybody talk about the negative of that, but the positive of it is that your boss really doesn't yell at you anymore. They'll be like,
they're quite supportive and they're probably concerned.
They're like, we have to have a hard conversation. That was really, really bad. Like then you think about it, you're like, that wasn't yelling. That was just like a person being like, are you losing your mind? Like, you know, so
dude, I completely get it. Okay. So there's a couple things in my life that I've been able to like make non-negotiable. And I think that's what you have to do. So like for me, the working out piece, that's like how I keep my sanity. I also just don't feel good if I don't do something in the morning.
Right.
So like that's become so ingrained in like my daily habit that like I can't miss it. Right. So I've got that built in. The next thing though is like, okay, the podcast, right? Like work is non-negotiable. Like I have to be available from 9 to 5:30 at the very least.
Right.
But like with the podcast, it's like, okay, I either like for the first year and a half, I was very regimented. I would start working on the podcast like 7:30 in the morning, whatever that meant. And I used to do a lot more of the things that make the show run by myself.
Yeah.
But I had that built in. When things started going off like the wagon a little bit and I got burnt out, I was like, oh, I'll fit it in after work or I'll fit it in on Sunday.
Yeah.
And like, that's when you fall behind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you, whatever it is. And I don't know how do you do that with stand-up comedy? Can you even do that?
Well, the first thing was like when the pandemic hit, a lot of people were doing like shows in the park or, you know, my friend Ari was doing like one TikTok per day, every day, no matter what. And it was like, I saw people being like, oh my God, there's no like normal stand up.
Right.
we don't exist unless we're like on stage, you know, like I saw the shows in the park. It looked like hell. There was like no mic. There was like a homeless guy in the background. There's kids. It's like, to me, I'm like, I didn't need to do that. So I probably fell off a little bit, you know, like just like when you're out of sight, you're out of mind. So the main thing is like, how do I like network in a way that makes sense where I'm not like wasting my time, but also like only doing the shows that I consider fun. And like networking is like even like a dirty word. It's like just like hang out with the comics that I like.
Right.
Because now time is so precious with my baby that it's like I can't be at some like show that took 2 hours to get to. There's 3 people in the audience. There's like, you know what I mean? I'd rather just produce my own monthly show and like do that than do these shows where like, what is this? You know?
Yeah. Dude, it's like the filler time that you probably used to make up a lot of your free time. It's like once you have a baby, it's gone because now you're accountable and not just to the baby.
Yeah.
Like,
The other adults.
If Alyssa's at home with the baby and she's been with the baby all day and she knows you're just out just having drinks.
Yeah.
It's like you need to get back and like tap in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like I'm about to lose my mind. So it's like that free time is just not there.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. It's like in a way it's bad, but in a way it's good because it's like I've been able to kind of shed that like self-consciousness with like sending an email to ask to do a show or like self-consciousness of like maybe I don't want to talk about it on stage. Like I'm just like writing stuff that's very like honest. Yeah. And I think a lot of people like, you know, as a salesperson, a lot of people like think they're asking for something, but they're not actually. Like it's like, what do you want? Like I'm like, it's almost like I'm willing to buy. Like, what are you asking me for? And they don't even know how to ask for what they want. Right. So
hey, you're being direct.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually translates into like good stand-up writing. Cause like I used to have this joke about like DiGiorno pizza. And I had this tag where I'm like, it was about how like like DiGiorno had this whole ad campaign about tricking people that you had delivery, right? And I was like, but who cares if you got delivery pizza? It's not like it's not like a status symbol, you know, like someone orders a cheese pizza and you're like, holy shit, Kenny's doing really well. He's crushing it out here. You know, like what does he have? $12? This is unbelievable. But the way I originally did the joke was I was like, I guess I got to murder Kenny. And my friend's like, why do you got to murder Kenny? And he's like, and I was like, because I'm so jealous of how rich he is that he can afford delivery pizza. But then my friend Ryan Beck goes, you don't say that in the joke. You just say you're going to murder him. And we're like, why are you murdering this guy? So the point is like people,
you got to be direct.
You have to be direct and like precise with your language.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of how you got to like live your life. You want to be successful too. You got to be like, what am I really asking for here? Right. Like,
dude, that's very true. And honestly, salespeople don't even do a good job of it. I'm sure if I looked back through a bunch of proposals or whatever, I know, but that's it. Like you have to be super direct. And here's the other thing that I've gotten much better at having a kid and having a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do. Like I'm also much more respectful of other people's time. And because of that reason, I'm much more direct.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you would feel like, oh, I need to ask someone for something. I need to like kind of be nuanced and I need to get them there softly and then like take them down this road.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, hey, Bob, man, can I just get on the show? Like, if not, tell me now because like I gotta figure out if I need a sitter. They're like, yeah, come on out.
Yeah. I've been using that excuse too. I've been like, yo, I gotta plan super ahead and like either yes or no. But you know, there are people in stand-up that are these gatekeepers that like produce these shows that are basically like they'll take the whole lineup from the cellar and they'll just do it like at another bar. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, that's like, what's the point of that? Like you like bar shows and kind of the alt scene should be like a couple pros that are really famous, couple people we think are new, whatever. Yeah. And to those people, I'm like, I've reached out to them. Like, why not just say, Noah, you're not funny or like, whatever. We don't like your tape. You suck. I'd actually prefer that than just pure ghost and just like going, no, people don't like shut you down. Like, I don't know. I feel like society might be a little bit better if people were just like, yo, dude, like, I don't know. It's not for me. Like, that'd be fine.
I agree. Like, I've been thinking about this a lot too. Like, you're right. We're very progressive. We are now very politically correct, concerned with people's feelings. And by and large, like maybe I don't sound like it in this episode, but I'm actually a very compassionate person. And I often try to be like really conscientious about what I say to people, right? Because I try to take their feelings into account. So I also maybe sometimes err on the side of not being direct. But I think oftentimes like you do somebody more harm than good.
Yeah.
You know,
oh my
like,
God. I have a story for you with regard
I would love
to
to hear it. I would love to
All
hear
right.
it.
So one of Alyssa's friends was dating this guy for a while. So I'm not going to identify him, but he's an ex now.
Mhm.
But we used to have to hang out with him when we were hanging out with that crew of girls and like, we're all the, boyfriends and husbands. And the guy was like not that smart, but like pretty argumentative. So at one point, we're at this
everybody knows that person.
So we're at this big group lunch, and he says something like, like the distances of the countries on the map like isn't right; they're further apart or something. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, because of the map, the way it works. I'm like, are you talking about like how Greenland's big on a map because it's not a globe? Or like, and Alyssa's friend came over the other day and goes, yeah, we were all just like letting it go because we're just trying to be polite. He's like, but you wouldn't I wouldn't let it go. I was like, what are you talking about? And I didn't realize that the rest of the table was like, just kind of being like, yeah, he's an idiot. We don't know like what he's talking about. And I was like,
yeah, we just try and we don't engage.
But I feel like more engagement would do better. Like people online engage a lot, right?
True.
But when you actually ever confront someone in person, like 90% of the time, they're like a huge bitch about it and just like fold like a little flower.
Dude, nothing gets under my skin more. There's nothing I hate worse. Like again, I'm actually what's the right word? I really don't like confrontation. Like
right.
I try to avoid it. However, if someone doesn't say something directly to me, but has the nerve to say it to someone else, hoping, oh, dude, I'll lose my mind. Because at some point, like, yeah, you do have to be direct. And like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it is like the internet, social media, texting. Like a lot of people don't have that skill anymore, or they don't have the nerve to actually like confront someone in person.
Or you could just be like, you don't have to be like a dick. You can just do it in a way that's like, but I mean, like when someone, like if someone's like, yeah, I'm not going to get vaccinated because blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, well, that's not true. I'll just say like, I'll just be like, no, that's not true. And then if they argue with me, I'll be like, look, all I can do is say the right thing and you can either believe me or not. I say this to like a lot of people. I'll just be like, hey, all I'm doing is just telling you the exact right thing. Okay. And, and I've been proven right on some major things recently, like in my family that have been fantastic, where I've just been like, yeah, that's what I've been telling you for 10 months, So
I will say though, I consciously make that decision. I'm like, is this a person that I even want to bother correcting? Like, do I even want to go down the road that I'm going to have to go down for us to come to some sort of resolution? Right. And a lot of times I'm like, no. I just want this. Let's get this interaction over.
Let
me eat my cake at this wedding.
Right. But I worked on not being like, that's one of the things I've had 3 therapists, and the first therapist, one of the things I worked on that was like a breakthrough was like, do you have to be the guy who says, what the hell are you talking about with the map?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, it feels like I do because I always am. And then people expect me to be, and they're like, she was like, next time that you're in that situation, just like, don't say it. Right. If there's some girl being really loud and annoying and your instinct is to be like, shut up. Just don't say it and see what happens. And I was like, yeah, I do feel a little better. But now I almost feel like I got to go back the other way where I'm like, I've been holding back, baby. I'm like,
I feel
like sometimes I'm like, I should try to
let the shots rip.
Yeah. Like sometimes I'm like, I should try to get fired from ESPN. I should be like, where's the line where I can say something? Do you know what I mean? Like that, not like I actually want to, but see like not so worried about like offending versus just like being funny. You know what I mean? Like,
see, the irony to me is that like culturally, everyone is trying to be politically correct. Right. And if you don't, you get slapped down.
Right.
But the irony to me is that the fastest way to become popular and grow your audience is to say outlandish shit.
Right.
Yeah, because people I think that's just like an indicator that like what people really want is like people who are authentic, speak their mind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But my father-in-law, when I started really doing like ESPN games versus just like Ivy League stuff, he's like, everybody wants to be Charles Barkley, but you can't at your level. You will get buried and off the air. You can't just say whatever the hell you want. And I think it's like, I don't know if it's good advice. It might be good advice to stay in the middle. It might be like at some point you got to go for it or not. You know what I mean? Like everybody thinks they can be Howard Stern
Right.
But can you? Me and you are sitting here afraid of our wives right now as we speak. If we say the wrong thing, we are toast.
I've already softened so many statements just based on what like the repercussions might be at home.
Yeah.
Once she listens to this.
Exactly. And our wives are cool as shit. And like my wife's a comic.
Very
she like
true.
understands what funny is, but we're still like, we don't want to get in trouble. And that's something else I thought about, that me and Alyssa have talked about a lot. We were as kids, not as a teenager as much, but we were both the kids in our family that were like, if you get in trouble, it's like the worst thing. Like you feel awful. Right. And it's like the shit we did to get in trouble was like nothing relative to other people we know or whatever. Oh. It was just like, but you can't be, if you live in fear of being in trouble all the time, you're just going to be on the road to the middle. You're going to not piss off your boss. You're not going to piss off your coworkers. And you're just going to be like, everybody, thinks I'm a swell person, like, so I've been trying to get out of that mentality too.
I think the thought is that it's safe in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, hey man, just stay with the crowd, like stick out a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
Don't draw too much attention to yourself. Cause like you might get smacked back down.
Right.
I agree that, you know what? That is a hard thing to break. Cause I think I was kind of raised in the same way.
And then you had coaches going to get on the line and don't do this. And here's how we're going to do it.
Right.
I know this girl who's a PhD. Actually, you know her too, Jess Conway. So she even is like thinking about homeschooling her kids. Cause she's like, school, what does school really teach you? The main thing it teaches you is conformity. Sit at that desk. Don't go over there. She's like, we have like 5-year-olds who are like, they want to get up and see what's going on over here. And it's like, school is telling them, no, sit down.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, I feel that, but I'm also like, yo, we got to live in society. Like I want, like you do have to sit down sometimes.
Right.
But it is funny that like we are told what to do so much. And then you go into adult life and it's like, and now you have a boss that when you do try to do something on your own, whether it's a podcast or stand up, whatever, you almost don't know how to do it anymore. You're almost like, make your own workout program, And I'm talking about, don't look on the internet, go in there. Like how many people have actually done that where you're like, I'm going to do 500 air squats. I'm going to do 6 minutes on the assault bike. Like nobody does that. I would say 1% of all people working out made up their own shit.
Yeah. So I think it's nuanced, right? Like to some extent, and the people who can like read that nuance well, like can navigate that, I think are people who are really successful in life.
Yeah.
Because if you are an average person, if you are the average amount of funny, like you might want to just kind of like stay in your lane and stop like, you know what I mean? Popping off at work because no one's enjoying it. It's not getting you anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Or like maybe you want to be a broadcaster and you're just kind of like good analyst. You're not hilarious. Like, stay in your lane and like, hope you're handsome enough that, over the years, like you'll get a shot. But like you, outrageously funny, quick witted, like staying in the lane is probably like hampering you. Now, I also don't think you do that. Like I love watching your broadcasts.
Oh, good.
And I do think you step outside the lines quite a bit.
Good. All right. I always feel like I'm holding back. I really do. And then Alyssa says the same thing. She's like, no. You're really good. You don't see like what you do. It's like, which is ironic because I'm like Mr. Feeling myself. But I hear what you're saying. It's like, if you're the guy who's like, if you're Pistol Pete Maravich, you're an innovator. But if you're just some asshole at the park throwing the ball behind your back, it's like,
just run the system. Bro? Just run the system.
But that's another thing is like, all right, here's a great question for this podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, do you try to improve your weaknesses? Or do you figure out what your strengths are and just do strength only? Like go to what you're good at. And I would argue strengths, man, like just do what you're good at, because even as a player, like when you work on your weaknesses, you still revert to your tendencies. You still do what you're good at naturally.
Yeah.
You work on your left hand for hours and then you shoot 6 right-handed layups and 1 left-handed layup in the game, No,
I agree. I think that what I've learned, I would agree with you. What I've learned is like, don't sacrifice your strengths to try and improve your weaknesses, right? Like obviously if you're a basketball player, right. And you're great in the low post, but you have no mid-range jumper.
Yeah.
Like keep hammering the low post, but over time, like it will benefit you to like add that to your repertoire, right? Like LeBron's an excellent example of that. Like he is like mastered, like going down low and now he's like impossible to guard.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, yes, like more often than not, even in the world of sports, like you can get really far if you are excellent at one thing. Like in baseball, you can go to the pros and not even have to like put a glove on. You can just be a DH, or you can just fucking throw knuckleballs all day.
Right.
You don't need to have any other skills if you have that one.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like go all in on that. Like here's a great segue because I think about this all the time.
Okay.
In investing.
Yes. Love it.
I would love to start talking investing on this podcast more often.
Okay.
Diversification, right? Yeah. People are always talking about like, oh, like, hey, if something becomes an outsized percentage of your portfolio, like trim some of that and like spread it back to the other areas of your portfolio.
Yeah.
And I heard a great analogy on CNBC. It might have been like John Najarian or one of these savage NFL veterans. And he was like, why are you going to cut your flowers to feed your weeds? He's like, if you have something that's working, go in on that thing. Stop spreading it around with all these other BS companies. He's like, double down on Amazon.
Right.
Like if you've been pulling money off the table on Amazon to put it into IBM because it was safer, like you're probably doing terrible.
All right.
So I don't know.
Let's examine that.
Double down on strengths.
But let's examine that though. So let's say instead of Amazon, you were on a stock that was a negative 8-bagger, so you're losing all your money. So how do you take that mentality? I guess like
that's not a strength, number one.
Right. So I think it works either way. I'm just examining it from that point of view.
Okay.
It's easy to look back and go, I guess the only case where you're fucked is like something like shoots like my friend, this happened to my friend, who you know as well, John, had a stock at $2, shoots up to 21, didn't sell, back down to 2.
Yeah, that's true. So we've all been there. And I think talk investing, you got to read what's going on in the market. You got to read what's going on at the macro level, what's going on with there should be signs, right? But I think oftentimes, and again, I'm speaking to someone who's invested for like 10 years, but it's like you see something run up and you're like, oh, let me get out of that and let me spread it around, right? To take some risk off the table. But it's like, let's say you're an excellent like multifamily real estate.
Right.
Right. Someone would say like, oh, well, real estate should just be a portion of your portfolio.
Right.
So, well, maybe you're really great at running multifamily and you'd get way further if you double down on what you're great at.
Right. And I also view it always as like, I actually think that if I got to $2 million or $5 million, like I have like 2 levels in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, then I'd be fine. like if you have a number in your mind, it doesn't matter what you do. When you hit that number, you're like, I'm good. But if your goal is just to ball as hard as you can infinitely, the more money you make, the more you're going to spend.
Right.
You'll be screwed forever. And I'm an investor for probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So the number one thing, like this is straight out of Pete Carrill's book, where it's like dumb coaches go, that's Michael Jordan. You can't do that. Don't play like him because he's Michael Jordan. He's special. Smart coaches go, look at what the good players do and just imitate them. So I was like, everybody who's smart is saying own Apple, own Google, own Microsoft. Like there's just like these big blue chip stocks. So I'm like, I'm going to start by owning some of that. I'm going to start by owning some Starbucks. I have 20 stocks. My number one biggest earner is Google.
Yeah.
Okay. And it might come crashing down in the future. Like it could become obsolete. There could be some shit that our kids do that are like computers. It's like baby shit, but it's like, everybody I know who's rich, I guarantee you they own some Apple and they own some Google.
Oh, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, go up to the guy in the gym and go, if I worked out at your gym, I'd be like, what the fuck do you do? And I've done this to you. And then you tell me and I go, I don't want to do that. That sounds like way too much work. No, but I did do the workout you gave me for a while. And I was like, all right, this proves that Kenny's genetics are just excellent.
Well, so man, I'm escaping on Gavin McMillan. So I actually had him on the show, but I mean, dude, he's coached. He's like a really innovative, I guess you would call him a strength and conditioning coach. But I mean, NBA, everyone from like Tyson Chandler to what is it, Zach LaVine? I'm totally spacing on his first. Right. I mean, NBA, like NFL, Troy Polamalu, like baseball. I mean, you name it, like top tier elite NFL athletes. Right. And like a lot of those guys he works with because he has an incredible reputation. Yeah. But he told me the exact same thing. I was a sophomore in college. Troy Polamalu was training right there. And he was like, look, man, he's like, you can try and figure out how all this shit works. He's like, honestly, go find the guy who's the best at what you want to do and just copy what he's doing. Yeah. Just mimic him, you know, like, he might not even be doing the right thing, but like something that he is doing is working for him. Like you'll probably be better served more often than not, just trying to replicate what he's doing.
Yeah. And also everybody like knows this, especially in the realm of internet self-improvement, but like hang out with people richer than you, hang out with better players than you. Like when you're the best guy in high school and you shoot 200 jump shots in a day, you go, everybody's applauding you. You're just a hard worker. You work so much harder than everybody else, you know? So then I got into this workout in end of college, like the last 2 summers of college, I'd work out with 25 guys. It was 10 NBA players, 4 guys from Duke, 3 guys from UNC. Go down the line. It was a 5-hour workout.
Yeah.
You would get there early, do an hour of shooting. Then we play 1-on-1. Then we play 2-on-2. Then we play 3-on-3. Then we play 5-on-5. And then the pros would stay and shoot another hour. So it was like 200 jump shots. What the hell is that? You just set a limit. Like that seems like a lot. And then you see like, what do pros actually do and how good they are? And then your bar gets moved up 10 notches because you go, you do it for a couple of days and then you go, look, I can't, I don't have it in me, you know, or you do have it in you and your talent level peaks out, but like,
absolutely,
you can't know, like if you're just some kid in the gym somewhere and you're pretty strong, you can't know what like Ronnie Coleman is doing or like, you know, any of these like bodybuilding pros, but now you can with the internet, you can literally be like, what is his workout and try to do it.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. If you're someone who's like self-motivated and willing, like that's the thing that drives me nuts is like, there's so much information at people's fingertips.
Yeah.
Like there should never be
and misinformation though. That's the problem.
That's fair. Okay.
I have a cottage industry making fun of basketball trainers. I have 2 coaches that I text nonstop where I'm like, because they're working on stuff that is an offensive foul, a travel, or like not a move. And they have all these kids lined up doing these moves. And I'm like, I feel bad for the kids that do want to learn and do the right thing, but are like, yeah, I'm working on my cross jab, drop pull through. And I'm like, that's not even a basketball term.
Right. That's
so there's a lot of snake oil salesmen left and right. So I hope people listening to this podcast are like, you know, filtering your guests are great. You're great. You know what you're doing, but like, this would be a place I would go if I was like wanted to get in great shape or like whatever, improve my overall health.
Well, I appreciate that.
But it is like there's a lot of bullshit out there and it's like hard to know what's what.
I tried to ask I asked a couple like really well-respected coaches, guys who leaders in their space. And it was that exact question. It's like, hey, a lot of people want to get better. There's a lot of snake oil. How do they determine? And I feel like one of the best answers I got was, it was Chad Wesley Smith. He runs a Juggernaut strength training. You ever checked out their stuff? I mean, they're everywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
But basically he was like, either like, have they personally had success doing it? Do the people that they coach personally have success doing it? And there was one other, but it's like, basically like you really, before you take someone's advice, you know, and like people can use misleading references so you can still get burned, but it's like, you have to take it upon yourself to try and identify, like, are they credible?
Yeah.
One thought.
Yeah. Before
we go down this road any further, because I want to bring it back to something you said.
Okay.
This idea of like building a group of people around you who are better than you in whatever field you want to get better. That goes hand in hand with like, you also have to cut out the stragglers.
Yeah. But
you know, like
this is why it's a dichotomy. If I'm some loser, like right now I'm some loser in comedy basically. Right.
Sure.
And I like know all the cool kids. Like I know everybody in New York at this point. But if I just roll up to the cellar and I'm like, yo, what's up? I'm just here to hang. They're going to be like, yo, you didn't like get past here. You're like not at this level yet. You know what I'm saying? But I bet honestly, if I went there a bunch of times and then also was like, yo, I'm doing this other club. And I'm like, eventually they'd be like, all right, you're putting in your dues. You know, you're like the little high school kid who wants to play with the college kids and they go, get the hell out of here, kid. And then you grow 6 inches and they go, all right, man, like apparently you really want to be here. So maybe I talk myself out of that. No,
maybe. I think you might. I get it. And especially comedy too. Like, I mean, I'm not even gonna pretend to understand, but I feel like that group, like the group that you would need to get at to be with people who are better at comedy than you, right?
Yeah.
Like they've put in the time, they've put in their dues. Like I get that there probably really is like a need to be accepted kind of into.
But
like
even amongst my friends, my tight friends in comedy, there's 2 that are There's 3 that are inarguably doing better than me career-wise.
Yeah.
And probably have like more material than me. I could admit that they have more material.
Right.
I think that my funniest shit stands up to their funniest shit, but like they can do an hour. I can do half an hour and probably 10 of it's bullshit.
Right.
So it's like, I'm already doing that a little bit, but I think it's like,
I would say
you want to hang out with people you like too. So it's not just like, yo, I got to find my squad of people that blah, 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 but like people that actually care about you too, who like want you to do well.
Definitely. Here's the other thing too. Like, I think, let's say you have a defined goal, right? Let's go back to investing.
Okay.
Let's say real estate, because this is actually a good one, right?
Okay.
You might not have people in your circle who do real estate investing. Like, you just might not, right?
Yeah.
But you can find a way to plug into some sort of community that does. Now, online, there's a lot of ways to do it, or you could go to like a local real estate meetup. And like, okay, devil's advocate, just showing up there, people are not going to pull you in, right? And I think now we're getting to like self-help territory, but
which I love. Come on, man. I love self-help.
I do too. I have a podcast about, optimizing your performance. Come on. But I think you need to show up and like determine like, okay, how do I add value? Like, I'm not where these guys are at yet, but I want to hang around because I know if I can learn from their experience and start to get pulled into their opportunities that they're working on, like I'm going to be a better real estate investor. Yeah. But they're not just going to let you in. So like you got to bring something to the table. And often it's like hustle or it's connections.
I think it's hustle. And it's also like not being annoying, right? Because you got to go in there and just not be like coming in like laser hot. So I have a branch off of this conversation that I think you'll like. Okay.
Good. I got time.
So I read there's a great long read article in New York Magazine. Okay. And it was like basically all about drinking. Okay. Did I tell you about this already?
No, but I love wherever you're going. I'm ready.
So
I'm ready. Let's do it.
It was kind of like, where are we at with drinking in America? Where did we come from? It went all the way back to Prohibition. Okay. People in the 80s and 90s actually drank less than they drink now. Right now, drinking's at an all-time high. Okay. And
I believe that.
There was, COVID, people are drinking. What they noticed, and this is studied by sociologists, is that more people are drinking alone now than ever before. And they're even drinking alone, that what you classify alone, like at the bar. People will come in, they'll order their 5 drinks, stare at their phone, and not talk to anybody and leave. Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
But one of the things that came out of this was basically like, after studying all these behaviors, all these groups of people, that like moderate drinking is actually good for you and good for society.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
There used to be a thing in coding where it would be like, you have 4 beers and then you write the most unbelievable code you have in your life because you're familiar with getting into flow, right?
Oh, dude, all about it. Flow state.
Beer, wine can like get you into a flow state because it takes away that anxiety,
like anxiety,
right? But not 2 bottles of wine, like 2 glasses of wine.
Right. There's a happy medium to be had.
So they even went back to like primates who could tolerate the fruit that fell down and got fermented and could eat it, like lived. And they tied this into the fact that religious societies lasted longer, had longer, as a society, and had longer life expectancy because of that sense of community.
Yeah.
Okay. So the old way in America was you have your job, you have your church, and then you go home to your family. So you have 3 places. And then maybe it was the saloon and then it was home or whatever. But I think right now we're in an age where there's like a lot of community to be had if you look for it.
Yeah.
But it's quite easy to just go to your job, go home and stare at your phone and have no community at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you find that community if like you don't naturally have 25 good friends? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what it is, man? At some point, it's like people have to take initiative. Yeah. Like it is here to your point, like talk about anxiety inhibition. Like it is uncomfortable to put yourself in new situations, especially outside your comfort zone. Yeah. Especially if it's something you care about. Because you're like,
and I feel like sometimes I feel self-conscious in the gym when I'm like out of shape and I'm just getting back in. Yeah. And I look at the people that are like obese that are there and I go, that must be really hard. Right. Like, you know that they are feeling like, goddamn, I'm like too fat to be here. I like feel awful because I'm like, I feel that way, and I don't like. I look pretty good,
Right.
you know. And it's like I applaud them.
You're on ESPN, yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, oh, this sucks. I wish I was in better shape. So it's like, you know, and I'm one of the most outgoing people in the world, and I have social anxiety if like I make up a story in my head about like, oh, this group of comedians has been on TV, so they don't like, I shouldn't be here. I don't belong here. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And then I still have that, which is amazing because I'm like, I've never had trouble talking to anybody in my entire life. So what's it like for a quote unquote normal level outgoing person who's like, I want to get in shape. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. You know?
I agree, man. Yeah. It's almost like it's a skill that you have to build over time.
Yeah.
Like here's something that I've thought about, and I will bring this back, but like, we've been to a lot of weddings this summer, and for whatever reason, like I am someone who I feel really comfortable talking in front of people.
Yeah.
Like I didn't always, but you know, like over time, there were a lot of opportunities to do so. I began to feel more confident in my ability to do that. And so now I'm like beginning to recognize like the ability to do that at important events is like kind of like an underappreciated skill. And a lot of people don't have it for probably a lot of the reasons that you're mentioning. So for me, I'm like, wow, like, when someone goes up in front of a crowd, like at a wedding, gives an amazing best man speech, like the impact that has on everyone. Yeah. I'm like, that's really powerful. And I'm like, I want my kids to have that. So I'm like, I'm going to train them at a young age to get comfortable speaking in those situations. But here's my thought. It's like, okay, hey, Harper, you know, everyone's here for Thanksgiving dinner. Like, will you stand up and tell everyone a few words about, you know, why you're so thankful everyone's here?
Right.
Something little, but like over time, like condition them to like get over in small doses.
Yeah.
That fear of speaking.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really similar to like putting yourself in a new situation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
and you know, there's an old Seinfeld joke about it where it's like the number one fear in America is public speaking, and number two is death. So that means if you're at a funeral, you'd rather be the one in the casket than giving the eulogy. Right. It's like so true. Unless you're like me, where like the craving for attention is higher than the discomfort of talking.
Yeah, great point. But my thought there is it's like over time, if you keep putting yourself in new situations, eventually you realize a lot of those fears are unfounded. You know, and here's the other thing that I've realized that helps is people are tied up in their own BS anyways. Like
nobody
everyone
cares
is so
about
worried
you.
about themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
No one cares about you.
Nobody.
No one is worried about you being here. They're just worried about like their own standing within this group. And they would actually love to talk to you because they're nervous to be there too.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like, anyways, I guess like how we got onto this, it's like you have to take the initiative. You have to like get over the anxiety because no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
So it's like if you step up, people are probably going to appreciate the fact that you're trying, unless they're a real dick, and then well, you don't want to be around them anyways.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of the last thing that made me like really uncomfortable to try that was new.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like, I don't know. I can't think of something that I was like,
I've got one if you want to hear.
Oh yeah. I want to hear yours.
And I just, okay. And so you might not believe me. Sonia did not believe me. I got invited by a local gym owner here. What's up, Dan? He's the man. To join like a Jack and Jill softball league. Okay. I got to know, I was in his gym. I was actually trying to do the pull-up attempt. And he was like, hey, you don't by chance play softball, do you? I was like, no, but I'm a pretty decent athlete. I bet I could figure it out. And I played baseball until I was like freshman year. Going out that first time, dude, I was legit nervous. Yeah. Like I had to go like buy a glove because I haven't done this stuff since, you know, I'll do it now with my kids. But
did you get any hits?
I was legitimate. Dude, I crushed the ball. Like my fears were so unfounded, number one. And also like I was getting pitched to by someone's grandmother, like some sweet old lady who like volunteers at the church, just lobbing softballs for me to hit. Like I was so overqualified to go be there, but I was legit like, oh my God, like I don't know how they play. Like, I don't know what the quality is. Like, are they going to accept me? And like in hindsight, I'm like, it's so ridiculous. And I'm also a very outgoing person, and that is like so in my wheelhouse.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, we just lost we lost in the semifinals tonight. Actually, that's why I was a little late.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have like a. It's weird. I'm not nervous to be on TV, But
which most people would be petrified.
Yeah, I guess the only time I get nervous is of like, I kind of know the setup is going to be bad for me to do well. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm like, all right, the TVs are on, they just saw a magician for an hour, they're going to hate me. Like if it's like a fair fight, like if it's like people in the right direction, there's no distractions, then it's either my fault or not. But like, there's so many like comedy show. Like I got booked on this comedy show to do an hour at a high school. Okay.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, you got to do an hour. I'm like, for me, that's like super long, but I was like, yeah, I got you. And then they're like, all right, can't be dirty, like at all. Can't even like talk about sex. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then they were like, not really anything about relationships either. And these were all like separate emails. They're like, don't really talk about like, these kids don't date. So like, don't talk about like, you know, how you're married or anything like that. And I'm like, all right, now my set is like 4 minutes long. If you like take out like marriage, sex, relationships, I'm like,
you just chipped away at my whole.
You know, I'm supposed to just talk about like fruit for like an hour. So, I emailed them and was like, oh, and so then they go, the last comic we had last year was Joe Pera, who's like, he's like a very alt comic. He couldn't be more different than me.
Yeah.
New York based guy, been on TV. He's doing great. But so different than me that I was like,
right.
So I just emailed them and was like, I'm not going to do this gig because I knew it was a hell gig and it's like, I didn't need the money. So I was like, there's no reason. The only option was go there and just like talk about sex until they pulled me off the stage and like piss off the old people, but the kids would love it, or just not do it. And I decided, because I knew the adults in charge, I didn't want to piss them off.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm just not going to do it. But that's the only time I get nervous is when I'm like, you know, the ask is unreasonable. So, you know, another way to kind of get comfortable is be like, wait, what am I actually trying to do here? Is it like actually possible? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'll give you a great example. And a lot of people might not relate to this, but so we both went to Princeton, so you'll be able to relate to this. So I think maybe you don't feel this way. I definitely had a little chip on my shoulder that if not for football, I probably wouldn't have been there. And I think a lot of people probably say, no, it's not a chip. Without football, you absolutely would not have been there. But I remember because of that, right? Sitting in precept, which for, you know, people who didn't go there or whatever, it would be like a smaller subset of the class. It would be led by a grad assistant. And this is where you would like dive in to the topics that were covered in class or in your reading. And you are not only expected, you're often required to participate.
Yeah.
For me in those early years, and maybe even through all of it, like, dude, gut wrenchingly nervous because I didn't feel like I belonged. Yeah, or I didn't do any of the reading. I was completely unprepared. But that kind of bled into the early years of my work life because I was like, well, you know what? Just like be quiet. Just kind of listen. Don't poke your head out, and you know people won't know that you don't know what you're talking about. And because of that, like I think I actually missed out on a lot of opportunities. And what I've learned is a great way to get yourself included is like to ask thoughtful questions. Right. Like people love to hear themselves talk. Yeah. And so it's like, you already know everything you know. So shut up and like find out what these other people that you want to learn from know and like be thoughtful about it and they'll really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I've learned later in life. It's like, if you're going to interject yourself into a new circle, a new environment where you don't know people.
Yeah.
Just ask questions, man.
Yeah.
You actually don't have to know anything. Yeah. And you can contribute to the conversation in a great way.
My sister told me this like 10 years ago. She's like, you know, you don't actually ask how I'm doing or like what's going on. Like we like hang out one-on-one. And I was kind of like, well, I'm like hanging out with you. Obviously I want to know like what's going on in your life. She's like, yeah, but you don't ask. And I was like, every time I've seen her since then, I've been like, yo, how are you? Like, what's going on? How's work? I always just ask those questions.
Yeah.
And I think like early 20s people are very obsessed with themselves and are very like, they want to tell you their story. They want to tell you what's going on with them.
Yeah.
Versus like, if I go back, I'd be like, they're going to find out you played at Princeton. You're a big guy. You're loud. They're going to figure out like whatever.
Yeah.
Just to like ask people about themselves and also ask like about what's going on or the project or the work or whatever. I do feel like everybody's like out here trying to tell the legend of themselves, you know, when they're insecure versus later in your career, you're like, I don't care if these people know I've done XYZ in my past. Like someone else is going to tell them about me if I'm that impressive, or if it's not worth it, they won't. You know, it's like kind of like getting actual confidence versus like just like fake confidence. You know.
I agree. And that's two thoughts there. One thought, my dad always told me, he was like, let other people do the talking for you. And I think, maybe to some extent that's to my detriment, because maybe, I don't know, maybe I should pump my own stuff more.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and this was a CEO that I worked for. Yeah. He was the best at this. Well, and actually, look, here's the other reason that I think people do such a terrible job. Like, to your point, people are so wrapped up in themselves. Like, the reason that people can never remember anyone's name, it's not because they're incapable of remembering names.
Yep.
It's because the whole time, and I'm guilty of it too, they're like, am I saying my name right? They're like, did I introduce myself as Ken well enough? And like, oh shit, he introduced himself. I didn't even hear it. I was so worried about how I was coming off.
Yeah, and that's so weird. There's never been a time in my life where I've been like, I'm Chuck. I fucked it up. Like we're batting 1,000 at saying our names, right. And yet we are so. All you're thinking is Noah. Don't know their name.
Oh, is it my turn? Is it my turn? Do I shake his hand? Oh, shake his hand. Hey, it's Ken. How you doing? Oh, damn
it. Exactly. Totally, it's like
totally
does it, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, because again, everyone's just so wrapped up in their own head.
Yeah, and when it actually the way to remember somebody's name, like, and I've gotten light years better at this by doing sales and probably by doing basketball games, because when I prep for a game, I don't want to just like look at my notes and be like, all right, number 12 is, Johnson. I want to like know who the person is. So when I see them, I know their story. They're from Louisiana, transferred from USC. Yep. He's a sophomore off the top of my head. That's how I learn their names, is I learn their whole story. So when you're like meeting someone and you go, all right, tall blonde lady, his name, whatever, Lisa. And you go, oh, okay, Lisa's from Rhode Island. And then like, it's Lisa because you know the person. Right. And you're not thinking about yourself at all. You have to be like, I'll get to me later. Like, it'll be fine. Right. Chill.
Actually, here's something I would love to ask you about. Because I think we're almost underselling you as a broadcaster and a comedian. Okay. Like, you've gotten yourself, and you're still young, you've gotten yourself to a place where you're on ESPN. You're doing some big time games. Yeah. You've done some big time shows, right? You've been at the Comedy Cellar, which a lot of people would consider to be like the creme de la creme of New York. And like New York is the creme de la creme of comedy.
Exactly, like, once, but yes. Whatever.
People, they didn't, I'll edit that out.
That's all right.
My point being, like, you have already made it to a point in a couple fields that, quite frankly, might be some of the most challenging fields to like ascend through. Right.
Yeah.
So what I would love to hear, and I'm sure people would too, is like, what would you attribute as to like how you were able to do that?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to our last, it goes back to a lot of what we've covered already. Right. So initially, like, why did I want to be on air, and what's the true essence of why did I want to be on air? Right. And it actually wasn't to achieve fame and for my own personal glory, despite my, persona. Like, I truly felt like as a player, you had no voice at all. You were just do what you're told. But like, I was the kid who sought out the program for Jumping Higher, who bought the book from 5-Star, who bought the videos from who did the stuff in my driveway, went to camps, wrote everything down, had notebooks full of crap.
Right.
So I wanted to like have a voice for like the player's point of view. Mm-hmm. I was like, I finally get to say what I actually think. This is interesting to me for that reason alone. Right.
Yeah.
And the second part was unbelievable mentors in the space. Like, my first partner at Princeton basketball was John Sadak. And I literally walked up to him at a away game and was like, I'd like to do color. Nobody does color on the road, right? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I did one game, and they're like, you can do all the road games if you show up. Free. Just do them. I just sat in the chair and I just did it.
Yeah.
So I just did it, but I had Sadak teach me the fundamentals. Like, yo, it's radio. We can't see what's going on. So I have to call, this is him talking, I have to call the action so they know what the hell's going on. Yeah. Second thing is, the most important thing is time and score. So when the ball's inbounded till it gets to half court, that's your time to get in with a comment, because nothing's happening, right? I can go and think about it on the radio. You don't see it. So I go, man, he was sprinting to his left. He turned and he almost stepped out of bounds, and that was a great footwork on the 3-point shot. And then I get out and I lay out and I let him get in.
Yeah.
Now with TV, it's the opposite. The color guy is the star because we can see it. So when radio guys transition to TV, they are always doing a radio call, play-by-play guys, most of the time. They go left-handed dribble across the timeline, out to the wing, inside, bang, it's like too much. A TV call is like, it's LeBron, left wing, probing. Oh, it's like 5 words.
Right.
So I learned that from Sadak, who is now literally the voice of the Cincinnati Reds. That's how far he's gone. He is the Cincinnati Reds TV guy.
You're kidding me.
Full-time MLB baller. He does NFL. He does college football. He does college basketball. And he's like
amazing.
Yeah, he's like got the dream job. When I worked with him, I was like, "What's the dream job?" He's like, "NBA or MLB, like voice of the team." You know, like that's
right.
So I was lucky to have him as a mentor. Derek Jones, my next partner at Princeton, was kind of a mentor, and then, I married into this family by accident. That my wife's grandfather is Bob Wolf, who's a Hall of Fame broadcaster who did games with Babe Ruth, who did Don Larson's Perfect Game. He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He's got a square at MSG. And his son, Rick, who's my father-in-law, was a broadcaster doing college baseball. And then he also has done a show on WFAN like every Sunday for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So once I linked up with them, they were like, and Bob passed away since then, but Rick like watches me now, texts me, coaches me. And he's a former baseball coach as well. So like the way that he coaches is like perfect. He's like, that was really good. Do more of that. Careful with this, because you said this before. Like it's very positive.
Yeah.
And like, so it's all the things we've talked about. It's like, be really clear about what you want.
Yeah.
And then every year I would make a tape and I would send it to CBS, Fox, ESPN, CBS Sports, NBC Sports, and either get a no or just a pure ghost for 8 years.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too. And maybe you're going to get to this, but like what I saw as well was just like the grind. Yeah. Like I felt like there was, maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like there was no job that you would pass up. It didn't matter if it was a Princeton road game and God knows where, like in Omaha on a Tuesday night and you had to be back at work on Wednesday, or if it was like a girls basketball game in Connecticut. Like it just seemed like no matter what it was, you're like, yep, I'll take the opportunity. I'll run with it. I'll make the most of it. And like, I'm going to take this rep.
Well, I drove, early on, I drove down to DC to do a Princeton women's game against Georgetown solo on the radio. And I did play-by-play.
Nice.
And it's one of the like 2 times I've done play-by-play. And I didn't have I didn't have commercials, or they were rolling the commercials at the studio. So just to give myself a break, I was like, all right, we'll be right back. And then I'll just take a break. And there wasn't a commercial break. It was just like during a timeout. And they're like, all right, we're back. And the audience probably just heard ambient gym sound. But the other thing is that I there's all these like roadblocks or gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And what you got to keep in mind is if you want to get in somewhere or do something, like the gatekeepers change, they leave, they get fired, they get promotions. So this one guy was like the gatekeeper at ESPN, and he left, and I think went to Fox or something, and people love him. I'm not like talking shit about him. They're like, oh, that's my guy.
Right.
But he was the guy just every year going, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you.
How many years would you say that was happening?
Oh, that happened for 8 years, and then I got a audition with ESPN. But the other thing that happened is that my friend Dallin Cuff, who's been really successful, he's been full time at ESPN for like a ton of years. He's a great job. I sent him a demo reel because every year I make my new demo reel, and I sent it to him and it was kind of like, yo, this is good. Like I had a lot of tape because I had done high school games and I had done the Ivy League tournament where I was like the guy at the desk and I did like a ton of hours. And he like ripped my tape to shreds. He's like, yo, your jacket's open. You're like slouching over. You're kind of like too lengthy to like be a, studio analyst. Like you got to be really to the point. And I was like, at first I was like kind of pissed. I was like, yo, this, like you kill me here. But he really like got me to like step it up, and like make my next tape so much better. So sometimes like getting that hard, like, like sometimes the answer is like, why aren't you at the cellar? It's like, you're not funny enough. Like that's like, get better material, you know, like it's as simple as that, you know?
Well, it's like what you were saying earlier. It's like the direct feedback. I would actually appreciate that because for whatever reason, if those weren't things that you were picking up on or you didn't think that they were assessing you on, like, you would have kept doing it. You never would have been able to correct it. So yeah, it probably sucked to hear in the moment, but helped you like refine, you know, your highlight tape to get you the next level.
Yeah. And like, you know, like hanging out with people that are better than you. Like, you know, the first gig I did with ESPN was the Charleston Classic, and they had me doing sideline, which I'd never done. And the analyst was Corey Alexander and Sean Farnham. And like Farnham, one of the things I noticed right away from Farnham when he does a game was that he knew the two teams playing, last year's team, the recruits, and like the entire league and the promos that they were rolling in for games nationally. He knew all those players. So, you know, 4 times a game, they're going to be like, coming up this Saturday, it's Duke against Virginia. Yep. And then Farnham would come in and be like, yo, Zion is a load inside, RJ Barrett, you know, they got, you know, Ty, whatever his name was on Virginia, like bang, 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 like that.
Yeah.
Which he, you know, he's a full-time broadcaster and has been for like 15 years. So he like knows all the players, but I was like, I actually know all the players too, but I just never like put 2 and 2 together where it's like, obviously ESPN wants us to like know about the other games, like the big games, even if I'm doing a game that's not as big time.
Yeah.
I got to be excited about like what the network's promoting. Like it's a Sonic blockbuster. Like you got to know like what the hell's going on. So I really like, I was always like, I was always good on air, but I honestly, the first year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't think my prep was nearly as in depth as it is now because, and it's like, well, would I have prepped that hard if it was NBA finals? Like, yeah, but I was like, it's just Princeton, Cornell. I know the players, like that's enough.
Right.
You know, versus like, do I know the whole league? Do I know Cornell's recruits? Do I know last year's Cornell team? So I definitely got better by like going like, wait a second, what does that guy do? You know?
That's what I was going to say. It's exactly what you were talking about earlier too. It's like, hey, you want to be the best? Like go find someone who's great at it. What do they do?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't do that. Honestly.
Yeah, and then the other thing to like get back to our like getting in trouble, break the rules conversation. It's like, if you know how to deadlift the right way, right? And you're not going to blow your back out, then, and you're like, you know, maybe you can try a new variation of a grip or a stance or whatever without like totally screwing yourself up. But if you don't even know the fundamentals, like if you're coming on a game and you're talking over your partner, you know, you're whatever, using profanity, you don't know the rules of the game, you don't know, then you can't be funny and different and whatever. You have to like build from a skeleton of like fundamental stuff and then kind of like innovate from there. Cause otherwise you're just some clown who's like, yeah, I'm different though. It's like, no. We don't know what's going on. You know, it's like too much.
Right. No, it's like your Howard Stern example. It's like Howard Stern isn't famous because he pushed the boundaries and was obnoxious. Like he's a fantastic interviewer.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like he has that within his skill set. And then also like, he'll be able to take risks, but at the end of the day, like there's a ton of talent there.
Yeah. But he also like, he knew the radio conventions and then he like built a lot of the bits.
He knew the game. Right? He knew the game and knew where there was an opportunity to kind of like break outside the box.
Right. But it's like, all right, we know that every radio show has like the news, which is like a break from the show. And he's like, why don't I just talk to the news person? Right. And then like Robin became like his, like so important for him because it was like, they would just talk and do the news for like 40 minutes rather than 10 because he would just be interrupting her and talking to her and, you know, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think like super gung-ho people sometimes want to be like, let me like break every rule right away. It's like, well, you don't even know the rules to break. You have to like know where we're coming from to like put the people at ease above you. Like, all right, I know what I'm doing here. And now I'm trying to be like a little different, you know, like that's like, I'm almost like giving advice to myself, but you know,
no, like, it makes complete sense. All right. I know I've been going at this a while. I feel like there were some gems in there, but you've got another project. And for those watching, I am trying to rep it right now. Oh, you're repping it too. Of course you are.
Matching hats,
of course you are. Passive income, baby. Chip King.
All right.
Can you tell us about what's going on with Chip King? Because I got to be honest, this might be the best thing you got going.
Yeah, well, it's the number one golf YouTube series / hat company right now in the game. Nobody's ever combined a full hat company and a YouTube series, but I'm a bad golfer, but I got into golf during COVID because everything was shut down. I had no games to do, whatever. So I just kind of chronicle my my journey to try to break 90 and, shot it, edited myself. And I have a little, I do content on Yo, It's the Sav on my Instagram too. I do a lot of golf content on there too. And if you like the hats, if you'll notice, they are those are little potato chips swirling around there.
Oh yeah.
And they call me the Chip King because I got soft hands around the green. So check me out on Yo, It's the Sav. Check out my podcast, The World According to Noah Savage. What else do I have? I have some comedy shows coming up that I'm going to post on my Instagram, Yo, It's the Sav. But I'm making my comeback, and I'm going to try to do all new material. Not that it matters for any of your listeners that haven't heard me, but I got a lot of new shit.
You're going to do new material.
Yeah, I got a lot of new stuff.
How much? Okay, well, will you even keep any of like the old material that hits? Like, will you keep that in your back pocket?
All of it, because what I'm going to do either this fall or maybe in the spring is I'm going to record like a half hour, and then I'm just going to chop up all the jokes and like individually put them out on Instagram, because I feel like very few people can even sit through a whole half hour anyway. So I'm just going to put out the bits like individually. You know what I mean? But like having one. It
kind of sounds like you need to be on TikTok.
I know.
Are you on TikTok?
No. I have to be.
Yeah.
Man, I know.
Seems like a lot of work.
I showed you Evan Williams, but like Ari's got a ton of followers.
Dude, I went down a rabbit hole.
So funny.
Ari does?
Yeah, you should have Evan on the show too. He's a big lifter, fitness guy too. But he's so funny and like. God, I just don't want to and I know I sound like an old fart, but it's like I don't want to learn another freaking platform. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, all right, I got to get on.
So to go back to where we started, it takes time. That stuff, it really takes time to put good content out there. So one of the ways, I'm very dedicated to growing the show, and the reason I've kind of been slow to get some of these episodes out, I'm in the process of delegating and passing off responsibility for a lot of the things that I just do myself to get it out, because it's not sustainable over time.
Right.
Because I have a day job, you know what I mean? I have 3 kids and I have a wife, but it's man, that stuff takes so much time. So the people who do that and do it across multiple outlets, I'm just man, they must not have a day job, or they're just passing it off to someone else.
Yeah. The 2 guys I know don't have day jobs. They're just comics.
Yeah.
But they do have an incredible amount of discipline to just consistently do it.
Churn it out.
Yeah. Man, this conversation has inspired me. I'm going to I was already reinvigorated to get back out there and do stand up, but I got to figure out what other avenue it's going to be on, and I think doing a half hour special but 1 minute at a time is kind of what the end goal would be. Cool. Yeah.
Dude, you have to. You and Alyssa. Is Alyssa going to continue to do comedy? Alyssa being, for everyone listening, the mother of said baby. Is she getting back out there? Does she plan to get back out there?
Oh, for sure. And she's actually at a show right now. She's producing for our other friend Allison Libby, which is called "Oh No, an Hour About Abortion," and they're trying to get that to be like a big time show, a little bit like Jacqueline Novak had this show called Get on Your Knees that was on Broadway.
Ah, okay.
That was an hour about blowjobs, and it was critically acclaimed by New York Times, and she's a class ahead of us in comedy. She was here before we started and everything, but she had a major success with that.
Oh wow.
So it's really do something you give a shit about, and then something might happen with them, some might not. But I'm reinvigorated to get back out there and be funny, and I have there's a ton of new material that's probably maybe it sucks. I don't know. Gotta try it out.
Well, I can't wait. We were just talking before this. We got to get out there and watch you guys. But also, seriously, check out. I'm going to link to everything. I'll check out link to your Instagram, link to YouTube. But yeah, man, you know what? I honestly feel and I've been saying this for a little while, but you especially, when I watch you on ESPN or when I'm watching doing a game or whatever. Yeah. And when I watch you comedy, I'm he is so close to this thing, just taken off.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like
too.
I honestly feel that way every time. Like when I'm watching the games, especially with broadcasting, but also with comedy, but when I'm watching the games, I'm like, if he wasn't my friend, this would still be one of my favorite games to listen to.
Well,
Like,
when I
it's
did
entertaining, it's quick.
Well, I did the championship game on. It was like Saturday at noon. It was Hartford versus UMass Lowell. So
Yeah.
NEC championship. And one of my friends texted me. He goes, "Wait, are you doing this game?" Because he was just watching it. He's like, "It sounds like you," and I was like, "Yes, like it is me, loser." So yeah, I appreciate that. But I do feel like the other thing is like, with the day job and the kid and everything, it's like it is tempting to just be like, I don't want to do the podcast. I don't want to do stand up, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, if I zoom out, I go, what am I going to quit 10 feet from the finish line? It feels like I'm like so close to like something good happening,
Dude, that's the thing. Well, and I talk about this too with the podcast. Like I've been really fortunate. Like I've had some awesome people on the show, and I had some people on that I didn't think would come on, quite frankly.
Right.
And it's like the feeling after you do it, you're like, that was like the best hour of my time. Like even if nothing comes, like I'm so motivated.
Yeah.
And now you've built that great connection. And so like a lot of times, like, and I think this is true for anything that people are passionate about. Like sometimes I ask myself, like, if it took me 5 years before this thing started making money, right? Like, let's say like this makes enough money someday for me to quit my day job. I'm like, would I grind this out for 5 years, 10 years to be able to do that? Like, yeah, because I love doing it. It's a blast. I'm meeting amazing people. And when people do write to me, a lot of times it's having a huge impact. So,
well, let me ask you a question. Would the money feel better coming from a podcast than coming from your day job? Because when I started making like actual money from ESPN, I was like, this funny feels. And the few times I've been paid for comedy, like really paid, I'm like, this feels like different money. This feels like,
I can't even imagine.
Like I got $1,000 one time to do 10 minutes of comedy.
Yeah.
I was like, this is crazy.
Right.
This is like, it feels so much better. So I even think like I'd be willing to take a massive pay cut if it was like only exclusively stuff I want to do.
Oh yeah.
How lucky of a person do you have to be where you go, everything I do, I enjoy.
I think that's a dream. Well, I think about this all the time too. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but now nothing is more important to me than my time. Right. Because whatever I'm doing, it's taking time from something else. Yeah. And oftentimes it's taking time from my family. And like, I'm not okay. I'm just not one of those people who's like, hey, I'll have a dinner with my kid like once a week and I don't,
right.
He'll be fine. Yeah. So yeah, it's like for me, I'm like, how do I get to a place where I'm spending all my time doing things that I'm passionate about? Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard.
You know what's hard about it? It's having actual real money is nice. Like when I started out, the day job didn't mean anything because I was like, what do I care anywhere? I'm not making any money
for yourself.
It's like the further down the line you get, you do get further away from like the dream job. Sometimes I'm like, what I should do is like at least take 6 months and be like YOLO. Like that's kind of what I want Alyssa to do actually, is like be like, I'm taking 6 months, I'm paying myself out of my savings and I'm just like writing scripts and auditioning for commercials and auditioning for like, so who knows? To be seen what happens in the future.
I can't wait. All right. I feel like we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Covered very little of what I wrote down, but this was perfect.
Great. Yeah, it was really fun.
I feel like we need to have you as just like a recurring character that pops in.
I love
every once in a while.
I was supposed to lose weight too, but I didn't lose any weight. I actually lost 20 pounds and I put it back on. So
did you really? How are you doing it? What were you doing?
So I lost 20 from like 285 to 265, and then I like kind of came back up to 275, which is my normal. Like, I'm not being a fat ass, but I'm not like trying that hard either. But I am kind of trying hard now. So now I want to get down to like 265. So
are you still? Is it Noom?
Yeah, I quit Noom because I finished. Okay. I finished the curriculum. I was like, why aren't there any more lessons? And they were like, you finished them all. And I was like, well, what am I paying you for? Like, well, you can track your calories. I'm like, so like now every subscription service, when you go to cancel it, it's like, instead of like $60 a month, they're like, well, you can do the plan B for like, 15.
Yeah.
So then I was doing that. And I was like, well, I'm getting nothing out of this. So I just, but
we'll have you back, and we'll revive the what are we calling it?
The Savage 250. I wanted to get down to 250.
Yeah, we'll get you there.
If I get to 250, I'm gonna get a acting gig. I'm gonna look
Absolutely.
so good that I'm gonna be like, "What's up?"
It's you and Chris Pratt battling it out for roles. All right.
That's where you screwed up. You were always in shape. If you started out fat and looked like you look now, you'd be world famous.
World famous. I had a buddy, Glenn, who I can't remember what it was, like our 5th reunion, and he'd had a couple of beers, and he told me, he's like, you know what, Ken, of all of our friends who had potential, I have to say you're doing the least. I was working like a dead end, like marketing job. You know what I mean? I was like, dude,
that's rough, dude.
Glenn's direct, but Noah, man, I appreciate you coming on. I know you got the baby.
Hey, man,
appreciate you taking the time.
All right,
we'll do this again, and I'm going to link to where everyone can follow you.
Great.
Check out the Chip King, folks.
Check it out.